removed from the board and unreturned emails to get here. But I wanted to take the time to do it right. That's something that we're really proud of, and I'm really excited for people to try this. We're in pre-sale right now. I think by the time this airs, we'll be shipping. Will this air in January?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So then, we'll be live by the time this airs. And, I'm just really excited to get broader feedback from all of our customers.
Now, who are some people in the non-alcoholic world or even the alcoholic world that kind of helped you out along the way, that you had questions? Like you mentioned, some of the pins you had to remove and you had unanswered emails. And as much as that does, like I know that feeling of, you send these emails out or even DMs and no return whatsoever. You're like, okay, well, I'll just chalk that up to maybe next time, or they didn't see it, or I'll just move on to the next thing. But who are some people that did reach back out to you and really kind of helped you out through this process?
Yeah, so I think finding a brewery was probably the most difficult part of this process up to this point. Finding a brewery that was interested in working with me to actually brew this beer. So I got bounced around quite a bit there with emails, connecting with breweries. They would be interested, let's have a conversation, let's have a meeting, and then it would kind of fizzle out. And so I'm really excited about the brewing partner I've found here, who's up in Taylor, Texas, and they've been amazing in working with me on this because, like I said, it's non-alcoholic beer is already difficult enough, and there's not that many experts in the space. But once you bring in the functional aspect, there's almost nobody to call, right? And so they've been incredible in working with me through this and going through the compliance steps and tweaking the recipe and bring it to market. So yeah, they've been great.
That's awesome. I'm glad that being the first is not the easiest because, like you said, who else are you really going to talk to about what you can do and what markets you can even get into or how to market it or anything like that. So I'm glad that you're able to find someone that's actually been able to help you along this way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to find good partners who are excited about what you're doing and passionate about it because, like we were saying, I think there is some magic in people caring and putting some love into it, so to speak, and creating something in that way. I think people often talk about that in terms of food more than drinks, like there's love in your grandma's chili or whatever it might be. But I think that does come through in some way when somebody's really excited and passionate about creating something with you versus not being a little bit disengaged.
Right. Now, your motto for the company is we're on a mission to enable people to enjoy themselves, their friends, and their in-laws without alcohol. I love that so much because, again, when we're in the holiday season right now, and Thanksgiving, as you know, is the biggest wine holiday, and it's because most people can't be around their family without drinking because, unfortunately, politics almost always come up or there's some kind of family
Right.
drama or whatever. And then Christmas is not the same, but, there's usually a little more joyous time, but it is also, for some people, the saddest time of year because either their family members aren't with them or they just happen to be somewhere in their life that they're not in a good place and they do turn to alcohol. So I love that you are giving people something to consume and enjoy during these holiday time and, throughout the rest of the year as well, that they don't have to, consume alcohol and really kind of get in a darker place than they need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people can do both. You may be aware that in the non-alcoholic space, most people who purchase non-alcoholic beverages such as NA beers also still drink alcohol. I still also consume alcohol. People switch back and forth. So instead of having 4 beers at Thanksgiving, you could have 1 traditional full alcohol beer and then 3 non-alcoholic beers, something to that effect. So I think there's also that ability to kind of have your cake and eat it too, where if you do want some alcohol, you don't necessarily have to say, I'm either going to have Upline Brewing, or I will never touch alcohol again, and never touch alcohol again for the rest of my life, or I'm going to binge drink and black out.
Yeah.
So I think that seems to be a lot of the rhetoric I see, especially on social media, where people seem to, when they come across non-alcoholic beverages, and they're like, well, what's the point? I want to get a buzz. I'm like, if you want to do that, you can still do that, but that doesn't mean you're never going to drink a glass of water again, right? So
Right.
it's not, you don't have to make a proclamation, tell your friends and family, I'm giving up alcohol for life. I think for some people that does make sense, but for the general public who don't necessarily have a problem with alcohol, you're not necessarily making a lifetime lifestyle choice by picking up a non-alcoholic drink.
Exactly. Yeah, again, it goes back to that sober curious thing. There are times that, you can still enjoy a drink, and then there's other times where you could just not enjoy a drink and, but enjoy something that is non-alcoholic, has great taste, and is actually going to do something better for your body. So there is a fine line.
Yeah, and I think that's something that has changed. There's been a huge shift in the culture of that very recently as well. I think even maybe 15 years ago, if you saw somebody drinking O'Doul's, you might kind of elbow your friend and be like, oh, that guy must have a drinking problem.
Right.
But now I see people drinking non-alcoholic beers every weekend. You don't think anything of it. So it's great to see such a positive societal and social shift as we move into healthier drinking habits.
I love that too. And yeah, with every year, obviously, people have the new year, new me aspect of life. And so, reevaluating multiple things in your life, whether it be alcohol, your job, people, your friends, your family, just reevaluating life in general, and then, picking things out that don't work and leaving the things in that do, or even adding different things that could help benefit your life is always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think continuing to iterate upon your own life is a very healthy thing, to continue to revisit and think about what's working for me and what's not. And I think for many people, alcohol, at least in the way that they're consuming it or have been consuming it, doesn't work well for them. And they're afraid to give that up for whatever reason. And so I think moving toward non-alcoholic options, whether it be athletic or upline brewing, athletic brewing, or whatever else that may make sense to them, NA wine, I think there are a lot of opportunities there to work them into a healthier lifestyle.
Exactly. Now, you talked about, as this will go live in January, people can buy the two SKUs you guys have, which again is the Golden Ale and the IPA. Now, obviously, you were going to see how everything goes in the beginning, but, as you're starting a business, you kind of try to forecast in the future what different things could unfold. So what does the future hold? Will we see more SKUs? Do you see yourself kind of doing what Athletic's done with the different varieties as well? Or I guess just kind of fill us in on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, we're in pre-sale right now for our Golden Lager and our IPA. And as we move into January, once this goes live, we will be shipping. And thinking about the rest of next year, there's really two things that come to mind. More styles, as you mentioned, just more varieties, different options when it comes to the beers that we have in addition to that Golden and the IPA, and more distribution to brick and mortars and restaurants. I've already been in some conversations with some local bottle shops and local restaurants and event centers. I think that beer in all forms, alcoholic or non, is ultimately a convenience item for many people, where they like to be able to grab a pack of beer on the way to their friend's house, wherever they may be going. And so I'd like to make it more readily available in brick and mortars as we move through next year.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that too, because, like you said, if they're going to a party, grab something on the way and then, enjoy it at their friend's house and not have to worry about, am I, drinking, do I have to drink or can I get something else? And now you guys have an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I have a segment on the show. I call it the 5 count, just 5 random questions. Just answer as quick as possible.
All right, it's like a game show.
Okay, yeah. This is the game show part of it. Do you enjoy video games or board games more?
Ooh, well, I don't play any video games, so I'll have to go with board games on that.
There you go. If you were a pro wrestler or MMA fighter, what would your name be?
So my last name is Jost, which is commonly mispronounced as Juice. When I was younger, my older sibling's nickname was Juice, and since I was smaller, one of my nicknames was Juice Box, and so I think I would make it Juice Box, only because the expectations would be so terribly low if I was announced as the Juice Box, so I could only surpass them when I was in the MMA fight.
I love that. That's so good. What are 3 things people would not expect about you?
So I very much enjoy longboarding. I got into that when I was living in Napa, especially during COVID. It was just great fun to be able to longboard around. There was actually one time where I was longboarding and a guy was walking out of a restaurant and he walked out and very straight faced, not making a joke. He looked down at the longboard, looked me in the eye, and he just said, "A skateboard? You're too old to be on a skateboard," and walked away.
Oh, no.
And so I appreciate his honesty. I disagree. But, yeah, I think longboarding may surprise people. I'm planning to attempt to break the lateral bench hop record. Probably another thing that nobody would necessarily know about me. So I'm not sure if you can picture what that is, but lateral bench hops are you put your hands down on like a bench press bench and you jump back and forth over it. So the current, and so the current 30-second record is 60 lateral bench hops, which 30 seconds might not sound like a long time until you're trying to do 61 bench hops.
Right.
And so I've done it in some test runs. I just got approval from Guinness Book of World Records to attempt it, but I haven't actually set up the attempt because there's restrictions. You have to have somebody, filming it and all these different rules to make sure that's legitimate. So I think if I'm able to accomplish that, I think that would surprise most probably.
Wow. So maybe, well, I wouldn't say probably by the time this airs, but I could, after you break it, I'm going to have you back on so that I can have a Guinness Book of World Records person on this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be really fun. It was really one of those things that just as I got older and was moving through my life, I wanted to continue to accomplish new things and not stagnate. And It just felt like it would be fun. It was also kind of something from my youth that I always thought, how cool would it be to break a world record on anything, right? So, so yeah, I think that would be fun. And then last thing probably to a similar point is that I recently started taking vocal lessons. So I am not a good singer. I will not be singing right now or ever in public, but it was just, I'm trying to keep that sort of like exploratory, almost like a children's mindset of there's so much out there to explore and experience. And I don't want to fall into one lane too completely. So it was something I was always curious about. And so I began taking vocal lessons just to see, like, how does this work? How do you get better at singing? What does that look like? Not that I'm ever going to be a singer, but just to learn.
That's awesome. I mean, it's so good for you because you learn how to breathe differently in the way you're projecting your voice, which is going to be good for public speaking. And then also, if you're getting better at singing, karaoke gets that much better.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, karaoke on the horizon at most, perhaps, but I think it's also just great for your brain to be learning new things to keep those connections strong. So yeah, I think that all around that's a positive thing, and whether it's crossword puzzles or vocal lessons, whatever interests somebody, I think is a worthwhile pursuit for